Hey, this is the World Advice Channel. What I want to talk about today is a problem with Giorgia Meloni. So when it comes to Giorgia Meloni, I'm going to talk about a problem with her that needs to be discussed, that not only got underneath my skin, is also something people should be concerned about, even for that matter, Italians, okay? So anyway, now that I mentioned that, let's get started explaining the problem with Giorgia Meloni. So when it comes to Giorgia Meloni, the problem with Giorgia Meloni, the simple answer for that question and the problem with Giorgia Meloni, which of course is a famous Italian prime minister who is well known for her stance, more like extreme stance against illegal immigration into her nation, why doesn't she actually focus on the real issues affecting Italians, such as the declining birth rate, as well as, of course, the high cost of living? Now, when it comes to that particular issue, for that matter, this is something Italy has been suffering from for years, okay? This is not anything new or anything of that matter. Italy's been having this issue since the 2000s, since the early 2010s. Okay, the price of living is ridiculous. It's cost too much money to buy things. They've been having this issue for years. Like the price of, like, in terms of like how bad it's like here in like North America, Canada, it, like when it comes to inflation now, is like kind of like how the price of living has been for them since like the early 2010s, for that matter. They've been having that issue for years, okay? You know, for years. It's of course worse now for Italy, but it was still bad back then. It was so bad back then, for that matter, okay? And that's the question I have. Like, instead of just wasting your time blaming everything on Black African migrants, which of course is the easiest targets, particularly, of course, they're always going to be the worst ones out there, with of course Muslims, Arabs being second on the list. The truth of the matter, instead of worrying about migrants in general, and particularly Black African migrants, why don't they deal with their nation's own issue? Okay, Italy has one of the biggest declining populations in the face of the earth. Okay, it's close to Japan or even beyond Japan, for that matter. If you could literally have a list of the top 20 nations that have the biggest declining birth rates, Italy would be somewhere in the 20 list, okay? It's estimated in a few decades they'll have less people than they have even now, okay? Because Italians are not only overworked, they have a lot of money to pay for things, so they don't have the time to really have children, as well as be able to raise children, so their population naturally, as a result, is declining, okay? Which obviously, for any nation, having a declining population is not good for the survival of the nation's people. So that's the truth of the matter. They are not doing the greatest right now when it comes to that particular issue. For that matter, it's at a point where in the future, in a few decades, the biggest people who will preserve Italy, for that matter, will probably, if anything, be Italian Americans who live across the ocean, for that matter, you know, when it comes to not only preserving their culture, but even preserving their race, for that matter. They're not having children. And that's the biggest problem with Italy right now. They are not having children, okay? Which obviously, of course, the migrant issue is not a good thing. It's of course morally wrong to go in a nation without asking questions, you know, let alone, without, of course, asking for permission, for that matter. But in the end of the day, the truth of the matter is, okay, yes, it's wrong for these people to just be going in Italy without, of course, getting the right credentials and so on and so forth. But the truth of the matter is, even aside from that, Italy, for that matter, has a bigger issues to deal with. Okay? Why aren't they dealing with that? Why does Giorgia Meloni, who's apparently, I'm gonna save Italy, I'm gonna save Italy, I'm gonna save Italy, this and that, blah 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 blah, like all the politicians, for that matter. Why, if she's this magical person who's gonna save Italy, this strong, powerful leader Italy needs, for that matter, to preserve their culture and their heritage and their rich history, for that matter, okay? Why isn't she tackling these issues? That's a question I want to ask. Because you want to know why? It's just like every story, okay? This out of a right-wing playbook. It's the same thing. It's just meant to get you angry, get you full up with rage, and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, when it comes to actually getting shit done, nothing happens, okay? Matter, okay? It's like any story relating to powerful right-wingers. And we already saw this throughout history. We saw this with, obviously, even aside from Rishi Sunak, the person known as Boris Johnson. We saw this in 2016 with him when he was in office, for that matter. He's going to save the nation and this and that, and blah, 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 and so on and so forth. He's going to save this nation. We need a strong leader and all this type of stuff, you know, and what has he really done? What has it really done? How has he lived up to his promises he gave? Same thing with Giorgia Meloni, or any of these right-wing leaders, for that matter, who are gonna save the nation and so on and so forth. How much have they done? That's a question I'm gonna ask people. Okay, once you get past the trivial things like race, religion, gender, and so on and so forth, okay, you know, like obvious differences. Like you can obviously see through my appearance, if you see me, compared to obviously how a lot of people in Italy and let alone the Western world look like. You know, once you get past trivial things like that, what are they gonna do? Nothing. Just really nothing. Like, what are they gonna do that's gonna really truly save their nation? It's all talk at the end of the day. It's like anything related to politics. It's just gonna disappoint you. There's not gonna be any magical person who's gonna save you from all your problems. It's all just talk. It's all just posturing and this and that. And it also comes down to the fact of just how the modern world works. The modern world doesn't work that way. Especially because of the internet, the modern world is not like how it used to be. It's not even like a movie, like how it at least kind of felt like in the past. You know, it's now because of the internet, everyone can see everything you do, and it's full of a lot of hype on the internet, and a lot of this and a lot of that, and a lot of talk and this and that. But at the end of the day, for that matter, it's just bullshit. Okay, for that matter. Okay, it's bullshit. It's not gonna change anything. It's not gonna make anything different. Just like Elon Musk, everyone hyped him up a few years ago, especially like 2017, 2018. My God, people thought he was like gonna save the world. You couldn't even criticize him. And now, how much has he really done? How his cars don't even work that well, let alone his the so-called vision he has for taking humans to another planet. How do you even do that when like half the world of the population hate you because of your views? It's all hype, and that's what I want people to realize about the world. It's all hype. The world is too complicated, and so on and so forth, particularly because of the internet. And it's harder, of course, as a result, because the internet controlled the narrative like you were in the past. So as a result, being able to really get anything done like it would have been able to be done years ago is not gonna happen. It's the modern world, and if you think it's interesting and entertaining and it's like a movie, you know, or at least, you know, you're smart enough to realize it's not, but you hope it is, then you're sadly mistaken. It's not entertaining or anything. It's too calculated, it's too full of regulations and stuff for anything dramatic or any magical person to come to save you. It's all like everything, it's all just hype. It's just going to disappoint you. Aside from this AI thing they're trying to push, which even then, a lot of it has just been used for crap anyway, for that matter, and has been shown to not be that good. Everything in the modern world is just the same old, same old. There's nothing revolutionary or amazing anymore. This is the true reality of the world, and instead of just relying on these figures who you think are going to save you for that matter. Just come to terms with reality. The world has changed. It's not the world it was a long time ago. And creating anything full of radical change is not going to do anything for that matter. It's all hype, and they just use these migrants and things like this as an excuse to kind of distract you and get you to see things a certain particular way. But at the end of the day, there's no magical leader. They're all hype, they're all talk, and it's the same old, same old. Anyway, that's what I have to say for this video. If you like this video and videos like this, remember to thumbs this video up and hit the subscribe button. And this is all I have to say. I hope you enjoyed the video, and simply put it, later.